What is up everyone on YouTube, and today we're going to be talking about a mid who's currently available on the current banner rotation. She's a limited unit, she's available for 2 weeks. It is her first rerun, so she wasn't actually available in the custom group summons that we've had in the past, and the one that's going on right now actually. So a lot of people have been waiting for her rerun or her re-release, and we finally have her. Now she's a very strong unit. I would say that she's not as strong as before, but I think she is currently underrated. She's a very powerful opener with a lot of defensive capabilities and offensive capabilities for your team. Now, let's look at her skills very quickly. I know a lot of people don't know what she does, especially because she's only ran once, and a lot of people don't play her nowadays. But looking at her S2, we'll see it's an AoE combat readiness push for everyone with a skill nullifier. Already insane. This skill is very strong, and also will give her an extra turn. This is very nice because you can actually chain this into your S3, which will dispel 2 debuffs from an ally except for herself, and also grant them Swift Attack. Swift Attack is going to be at the end of the turn that has this buff. The unit that has this buff, after the end of their turn, they will get 50% CR one time, and they also have attack buff from this as well. And we have our S1, which is a single target attack that will either combat readiness push herself or your entire team if you soul burn it. So she's pretty strong. You can see that she has a lot of combat readiness pushing. You have your S2 to push up your team, and then you can S3 right after. If you actually run her on her own artifact, her S3 will also combat readiness push someone, because you'll see after using a non-attack skill twice, which is her S2 to S3 combo, you will combat readiness push the ally with the highest attack, and also have a chance to give them critical hit damage, which is very nice. But this Swift Attack is very powerful. Some units can actually abuse this. A very good option to use this buff is going to be Kisei, because after S3 you'll get 50% CR right after, which means you'll take an extra turn. And Kisei's biggest hard-hitting skill is her S2. Does a ton of AoE damage, penetrates 60% after you have your stealth up, which is from your S3. So a lot of people run a mid and Kisei together for cleave, or for defense teams in Guild Wars. It's very strong. You just have a mid push up with her S2, she'll S3 Kisei, and then Kisei S3 is a unit. She gets another turn because of Swift Attack, giving her 50%, and her S3 also giving her 50% CR. Then you S2 and pretty much wipe the entire team. So Swift Attack is very good, even without another unit having this CR push for themselves. If you pair her with another damage dealing unit, they'll cycle very quickly, and it's very strong. Now she does get hard countered by units that prevent combat readiness gain, which is going to be like Politis, but in that case you can actually just ban her, honestly, in RTA World Arena. Or if you don't want to trigger Politis' S2, you can just soul burn her S1, and it should be fine. The only real weakness is that her base speed isn't the highest. It's not going to be like 128, 129 like some other really strong openers. I believe her base speed is, it's going to be 285 minus 168, which I believe is 117. So it's actually still pretty fast for Soul Weaver, but it's not the fastest in the game. However, she is quite easy to build. All you need on her is speed. If you want effect resist on her to actually stop some debuffs from going off, and from like Zeo protection and stuff like that, so Zeo can't S3 them, or you're a mid rather, then yeah, you want some effect resist on her ring and stuff like that. But as long as she's fast enough, she should be good to go. The only real stat she needs is speed. She will win you the game very quickly if you get her S2 to S3 combo off, and having any bulk and effect resist is a bonus. I think at least 260, 270 speed should be okay for top 1000 RTA pushing players. It should be fine. And if you can get her to that speed, you should be good to go. Obviously, higher is better. And eventually, you do want to put her on some effect resist and some health. For health, if you just have health percent necklace, it is okay. And for effect resist, you just really need some effect resist main stat rings, and some effect resist on your boots, and just like an effect resist, secondary set with some random subs here and there, and you should be fine. She's very good. Definitely want to run her on her own artifact. It just gives her another CR push, and if this critical hit damage procs, you are definitely going to one-shot something with that unit you just pushed up. Now, a mid is a very good unit, but you want to have some good, strategies around picking her or using her. She is a good support unit. She can't really do any damage though, so you do need a hard-hitting damage dealer with you. Now, a very good option to actually use with her is going to be Spectre Tenebria, because what you can actually do is S3, and if she's on Talgaw's Ancient Book, she'll have 20 souls, and then right after S3, when she gets pushed up, she'll get 50% CR from a mid Swift Attack, and once you actually get your next turn, you just quickly soul burn your S1 twice, and you will do damage to 4 targets, right? And that's crazy. You can pretty much win a lot of games like this. Because of this, Spectre Tenebria is a very, very common pick with a mid. for RTA, for Guild Wars offense, and stuff like that. They were actually one of the most picked duos almost a year ago, I'd say, in the RTA season. Another good pick with her is Destina. Usually with the mid, you're playing a protect the carry comp, or you're playing a very fast aggressive comp, so Destina can be very good as well, because you can actually protect your damage dealers because the mid lacks healing. Another good option to pick later on is Unbound Knight Airwell with them, because a lot of mitigation, of course, and can make your team a lot easier to keep alive. And of course, you don't want to only pick one damage dealer in RTA World Arena. Navy Captain Landy, who's available not right now, but in a few days from the Mystic Summon banner event, you can choose her. Very good option as well with the mid, because Navy Captain Landy uses attack buff very, very well because of the fact that everything she has scales very nicely with attack. Now, if you do want to play her in a very aggressive comp, units that work very well with her are going to be like Green Sid. Green Sid is very nice. Just don't mind my gear on him. I use him for Hall of Trials, but he's very nice with a mid because of the fact that he can actually do a ton of damage with his S3 and then, get an extra turn if he kills. If not, he gets CR pushed up. But very good with a mid. You can stack him on a lot of damage that way, and his multipliers are amazing. Another very good option who is going to be very meta is going to be Midnight Galilius. Even though she is already pretty fast, you can actually put her on a slower build with the mid and have a mid push her up. And she uses the attack buff and critical hit damage buff very, very well. Of course, Midnight Galilius gets attack buff for herself with their S3, but in some cases where you want S1 instead onto like Navy Captain Landys and stuff like that, because it actually does more damage to squishier ones, you can actually one-shot some units with this S1 with critical hit damage buff and the attack buff from a mid. Of course, if you're just S3ing, then the attack buff doesn't really matter. But in the cases that you want to take out some, like I mentioned, Navy Captain Landys with your S1 very easily, then you can use Midnight Galilius. And there's a ton of other units you can use that I'm not, mentioning. For example, if we scroll down here, I'm sure I'll find one somewhere. Strays, right? So Strays is a very good option as well. I'm trying to find him. So Strays is very nice because he really needs attack buff to do any damage. And if you don't have this limited artifact from the collab, you're pretty screwed. But if you have a mid, you can actually just CR push him up because he's very hard to build, right? On high speed and high damage. Give him crit hit damage buff and attack buff, and then Strays' S3 will literally one-shot, pretty much anything in the field that is very low attack. And with that swift attack, you'll have your S2 up, and you can S2 and then one-shot the rest of the units. Very, very powerful combo there. So you can see a mid's very flexible. She works in a lot of playstyles. She's a very, very strong limited unit. I wouldn't say she's like a must-have, but very nice to have because how, universal she is in her team comps. A lot of people think she's only for cleave and aggressive units, but she's very good just overall. And there was a meta where she was first picked a lot, banned a lot in World Arena, RTA, and the high ranks, and there's a reason for that. I think if you don't have her, you can never go wrong with pulling for her. Just keep in mind, if you don't really see yourself using her, you kind of really want to think about it. Do you really find a use for her? Will you be using her in these team comps? If not, you can skip out on her, but this unit has been dodging all those custom group summons. She will be available in the next custom group summons. If you don't pull her now, you can pull her later on, probably like half a year. But until then, you'll be missing out on a very good opener. I think she's a very strong unit, like I mentioned. I'm going to definitely be pulling for more copies of her artifact. I think for her dupes, you don't really need this too much. The attack imprint release is very nice for your team if you play her aggressively, with the concentration if you play her more passively in, like those Destina, Spectres, Nebria comps. But overall, just having one copy of her, one copy of the artifact should be fine. Even with this maxed out, this doesn't go to 100% crit hit damage, so there's RNG always anyways, so really on you. That being said, if you guys actually end up pulling for her, let me know in the comments down below how many pulls it took you to get her. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit that like and consider subscribing. Peace.